Blade Runner 2049 is my favorite movie made in the last 10 years. It is truly a piece of art. I honestly, for the life of me, cannot think of a time I've been to the movies and been treated to such a feast for the eyes. This movie is gorgeous. I left this movie feeling profoundly impacted. This was a film that I thought about long after the credits had rolled, and in my opinion, this is a modern classic. I cannot wait for this movie to come out on Blu-ray. I cannot wait to watch this movie a million more times. In an industry that has consistently put spectacle before story, 2049 is like a breath of fresh air. We've been bombarded with terrible premises, surrounded by bombastic visuals, and plot has suffered for it. Blade Runner 2049 represents a renaissance in many ways. It harkens back to a much more subdued version of storytelling that has been missing from large, big-budget fantasy films for some time. Before I get started though, I will admit to being biased. I love films like these. I love dark, hard science fiction. I think that Prometheus was a very underappreciated film. It is still up there as one of my favorites. I'm madly in love with Children of Men and cannot wait to make a video on that film. That's not to say I only like dark, moody films, but if your movie has space, atmosphere, and philosophy, I will most likely enjoy it. Shit, I own Life on Blu-ray, and that movie was just okay. I digress. Blade Runner 2049 is such an exciting film for me, not only because of achievements of its own, but because it's the sci-fi sequel I've wanted for a long time. I'm ecstatic that this film exists. What are the chances that we get a film this original in 2017? Especially when it has a budget of $150 million. Hollywood has been rather safe lately, making me turn to smaller budgeted films to get my fix. I've been disappointed by so many remakes, reboots, and sequels in the past decade. Blade Runner 2049 is relentless, ambitious, and fiercely unique. It avoids all the pitfalls that so many films have fallen into, and I couldn't be happier with the result. Sequels are hard to make, especially when it's a sequel to a franchise that has been dormant for a long time. This film should be a beacon that the genre flocks to. Unfortunately, the performance of 2049 in the box office wasn't so great, so I doubt that this film will be replicated or talked about for a very long time outside of a cult following, leading to more reinforcement of trends in Hollywood that I'm sick of. Blade Runner 2049 is not an homage, at least not in the sense that we have come to attribute that term. Blade Runner pays tribute to the original film before, but it does so in a subtler way than what I am used to. Star Wars The Force Awakens was strictly an homage. Its sole purpose was to reboot a franchise and elicit nostalgia, but it did so by taking every story beat from its source material and rebranding it for a new audience. This is a tired trend, and it has really been killing a lot of my favorite franchises lately. Blade Runner 2049 does not do this. The premise is unique enough to let both Blade Runner films stand on their own. In many ways, 2049 is the film I wanted so many other films to be. Not just The Force Awakens, but Jurrasic World and Mad Max Fury Road, to name a few. These are all films that I liked, but I could not bring myself to love. They just didn't grab me like the originals did. If I was given one word to describe what makes 2049 so great, it would be confidence. This is a confident film, from the opening shot until its last. This is a film that knows what it's doing, and it is unafraid to tell it the way it needs to be told. The protagonist, Kay, is the reason I love this movie. 2049 opens with Kay on what is presumed to be his daily routine. He is tasked with tracking down a Nexus 8 replicant. The replicant tells Kay just before he kills him that he has never witnessed a miracle. This line will go on to haunt him for the remainder of the film, as he begins to understand more what the old replicant meant. A body is found underneath a tree in the replicant's yard. It is later learned that this is the remains of Rachel from the first film. It is also learned that she died in childbirth. This leads the protagonist on a mission to find the truth. He is conflicted throughout the entire movie. He lives in a world that is predispositioned to hate him and those like him. Kay is a replicant Blade Runner that hunts down and kills older model replicants. Kay is aware of his agency in the world, and through learning what his birth may mean for his people, He becomes aware of the tragedy of what his job entails. He struggles to find his own identity and purpose within the confines of the world that he lives in. Kay wants the same things that we all want: love, purpose, and identity. The most interesting relationship in the film is between Kay and Joy. Joy is Kay's hologram girlfriend in 2049. Like Kay, Joy is programmed for a singular purpose. Unlike Kay, Joy desires things that even a replicant may take for granted. Since she is a hologram, she cannot touch, smell, or taste. She is locked to whatever device projects her, and her character wants nothing more than to be closer to Kay. Joy endows Kay with the belief that he is special. When Joy learns that Kay may be the son of Deckard and Rachel, she tells him that he is a real boy, and decides to rename him Joe. As the movie progresses, Kay begins to fall for this narrative, until he accepts it to be true. Just like the idea that he and Joy are in a real relationship, Joy will go to whatever length she can to make this the case. Joy is a dreamer, a free spirit if you will. She is okay with clinging to the best case scenario. Kay, on the other hand, has become acquainted with the harsh realities of the world he lives in. But you can't help but feel that Kay can be intoxicated by the romantic ideas that Joy puts in his head. Else, why would he have her around? You really begin to root for these two as the film progresses. In this progression, the audience begins to see things as they do, even if they are under false pretense. Later in the film, Kay and Joy go on the run. Kay, under Joy's order, puts Joy on a mobile device that will let her go with him, and he deletes the backup. While this will stop those looking for Kay from accessing her memories, if the device is destroyed, she is destroyed. As she puts it, like a real girl. After some shenanigans with Deckard, the antagonist finds them, and at the end of the conflict, Joy ends up being destroyed, but not before reassuring Kay, or Joe, that she loves him. After this, Deckard is taken by the antagonist, and Kay is left for dead. Kay is rescued by a group of replicants planning a revolution. Kay learns that he is not the child of Deckard and Rachel, but a decoy meant to lead them away from the real child. She tells him that he must kill Deckard, and that dying for the right cause is the most human thing that he can do, justifying Tyrell's slogan of being more human than human. This is the obvious low point in Kay's arc as a character. This point in the film is a subversion of what we've come to expect from a typical story. He is not the quote-unquote chosen one that audiences have come to expect. In a paradigm shift, all his beliefs up until this point have been false. It is up to the audience to decide the severity of Kay's delusion. Even his relationship with Joy is left up to interpretation. In what is to me the best scene in the film, a nude and sexualized advertisement of Joy approaches Kay. She tells him that she can fix his troubles and calls him a good Joe. This would lead us to question, was Kay's relationship with Joy a result of her programming? Was anything about the relationship unique to Kay? Was Joy programmed to instill a sense of selfhood in whomever purchased her? These ideas fit with those central to the Blade Runner films. A character that I have failed to mention thus far is Love, the primary antagonist of the film. She serves as the antithesis of Joy's character. Both characters' namesake inserts a deeper meaning into the film. Love is cold, cruel, and calculated, and necessary, while Joy is kind, caring, hopeful, and fleeting. And in the end, Love kills Joy. This juxtaposition is a quandary that the first Blade Runner would have been proud of. Love is not the true villain, however. She is a pawn to Wallace. Though Jared Leto gives a good performance, he serves little purpose in the film, and is given even less of a role than Tyrell had in the first one. This is my one complaint with 2049, aside from a few smaller gripes. The climax of the film sees Kay with nowhere left to turn. He is at his lowest point, and is forced to make a tough decision. In what may be his last act, he kills Love and saves Deckard. He does this in direct defiance of what the rebel replicants told him to do. Kay's arc is now complete. Despite of it all, Kay is still willing to fight against who the world wants him to be. He will not be a package, he will not be a slave, and the most human thing you can do is die for the right cause. Then, Kay takes Deckard to his daughter, where he may or may not have died on the stairs of the building in the snow.
but I can't help falling in love with.
Blade Runner 2049 is one hell of a sequel. In my mind, it takes what makes the first film so great and expands on it. Not only that, but the existence of this film makes the first one even better. 2049 understands why the first film had such a cult following. While the premise isn't exactly unique, it's the way that the story is told that makes it such a great film. Kay steals the show in 2049. He has the most interesting and tragic arc I've seen in a science fiction film since Batty from the original Blade Runner. This is something that Villeneuve excels at. He excels at giving us characters that we can really dig into. And one of his biggest inspirations was the original Blade Runner. While it isn't a perfect film, it gets one thing right where others have been getting a little carried away. Nostalgia is running around in Hollywood like a runaway train, and this film knows it. There is nostalgia bait in this movie, but it is brief and meaningful. Deckard is central to the story, and he isn't killed off for dramatic effect. The world is added to on ways that make sense. The world is meant to mirror the first film, not replicate it. In fact, this world has changed so much from the last film that it is almost unrecognizable from the first. The changes further emphasize that Los Angeles is even shittier now than it was back then. I can go on praising 2049 for hours, but instead, I want to leave you with an analogy. Does anyone remember Alien? Of course you do. It's the masterpiece Ridley Scott made just before he made Blade Runner. In 1986, James Cameron was given the mammoth task of making a sequel. What we got was another masterpiece. He took the characters from the first and made it his own. He took the world and made it his own. Aliens was an action movie, through and through, which angered some, but it was bold and different. Aliens is widely regarded as the greatest sequel ever made. Now, imagine just for a moment that Aliens was never made. Imagine for a moment that the next film to come out was Alien Covenant. A good film, but not a masterpiece. If you were an Alien fan, you probably got sad at that idea, which is precisely my point. An homage to a good film cannot stand on its own. It's just a watered-down version of something that we love. It's just more of the same. This method of storytelling is not only tired and lazy, but it lowers the value of what made the original so great. Blade Runner 2049 could have been anything it wanted. It could have followed any of the other films this decade that I mentioned earlier. We could have gotten Alien Covenant, but instead, we got Aliens. We got a masterpiece. That's why Blade Runner 2049 is an important film. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Cult of Spectacle is a new YouTube channel. It's a project that I've been working on for a very long time. This is in fact its first video. Thanks for watching this far. Please leave a like and subscribe. More great content is on the way. You don't want to miss it.